Welcome to this exciting new venture. I'm Dani.
And I'm Soph.
And we've been friends for 16 years. We are so proud of the connection we have and the stories we can share along the way. Now, with a mutual obsession with the moon, the stars, soul, and all things in between, we want to invite you into our story. This is Shouty Mums and Spirituality.
Hello.
Hi, Soph.
You okay?
Yeah, we
I honestly find it so awkward that we have to pretend that we haven't just
I don't know why we have to pretend, because everyone knows we were probably just having a chat before we hit record, which we were. Anyway, this is fun. Let's do this again. Let's go.
This is fun. I've got a question for you.
Hit me. What is
It's a
your
big
question?
one. What is spirituality to you?
Wow, I love that question. So I recently, and it was in the middle of a conversation with you, that it dawned on me what spirituality is for me. And I really think, in my perspective, I've nailed the meaning of spirituality for me, right? Because everyone has their own personal perception. But for me, I think it is fully embodying your higher self. And I think spirituality is a very broad title, which basically means that you're connected to source. So some people call it God, some people call it the universe, some people call it yourself. Your source is within you, but it's the bit that we're all connected by. So I think that when you live a spiritual path, or you're awakened, or you're spiritually aligned, it's because you're living as close as you possibly can to your higher self's path. So it's that connection between you, the human, and your fully embodied, aligned, magnificent, best version of you, which we all have, because it's essentially our soul and it is our higher self.
Yes. I think I agree with
Was that a good answer?
That was a good answer. No, because I was just thinking what it means to me, and I think it's quite similar, really. And for me, it's just living in line to my soul's purpose. So I think really understanding my birth chart and doing my kind of Akashic record stuff and understanding my soul gifts and all of that has given me this understanding of what I'm here to do. You know, I don't always feel that I'm living in my higher self or at my highest frequency and stuff, but every day when I go to bed, I can say I've been working towards my soul's purpose today. And I think for me, that's what it means.
I
Is
think
that a
so.
good answer?
That's a great answer. But actually, I think there's a lot of synergies between higher self and soul's purpose, right? Because for me, I've always been curious with spirituality, and I've always been open to all religions, all forms, all kind of like, things from tarot to psychics to mediums to all things. I've just been fascinated, but I never really felt like it was my thing until I had my Akashic Records reading. And that's when I was like, wow, this is my thing. It's the soul purpose stuff. It's the higher self stuff, because that's not about speaking to the dead or different realms. It's about tapping into who I am and understanding why I'm here. And I think that's the true meaning of life, is essentially finding out what your job is here for. Like, what are you here to do? What was your lessons to learn? And essentially, what is your soul's purpose? And that's why I love that it's a self-discovery thing. It's not about anyone else. We're all living a unique personal experience, and it needs to be aligned with our own soul's purpose. So I think you've nailed it.
And I think the thing there as well is that in the spiritual world, there is just so many kind of, what do you call it, like strings to it, isn't there? Like different routes that you can go down. And I think that's one thing that used to put me off kind of maybe going into it deeper, was that kind of having to believe in every part of it, or being made to feel silly if you can't connect with your guides, or you don't believe in dragons or whatever it is,
But this is where me and you are so similar, right? Because we both feel very similar about all these things. And I know from my personal experience, I gave myself a hell of a hard time for a long time, because I didn't think I was good enough or worthy enough. And I was like really annoyed with my guides. I was like, why are you not showing up? Like, why are you not talking to me? Why can I not connect to my guides? Why can I not, and I think I was just putting so much pressure on myself because, again, external validation and imposter syndrome and comparing yourself. And then I realized I connect to a higher version of me when I'm in the shower. Like, that is who I'm talking to. When I tap into my intuition, or, what you say, when I start chatting about stuff and I start channeling, essentially I've just connected to my higher self and she's talking. And maybe that's my guide. And, it doesn't mean I don't have guides. It means they don't have to come forward. They're just chilling in the background somewhere. They're doing their thing. They're helping me. They're nudging. They're doing the nudges, right? They're doing the work. But essentially, I need to be connected to my higher self, and she's the one that takes the stage. And that's my thing, right? That's not the same for everyone. Other people have like, oh yeah, I've got 4 guides that I talk to. And I'm like, I'm so jealous. Where are my
Yeah,
guides? But
yeah.
actually recently I've realized that no, that's my thing and that's my path. And if I can lean fully into that and I can give people the permission that you don't need to be tuned into your guides. Like spirituality isn't like a one rule for everybody thing. And I think that's why for a while I didn't want to call it spirituality, really. I just wanted it to be empowering and I wanted women to feel worthy and I wanted to work on their confidence and their mindset. And now I'm like, do you know what? It's connected to your higher self. That's what it is. That's the thing I've been shying away from. And yeah, I guess that's how I would describe spirituality. It's connecting back to source.
And actually, that makes complete sense with the way that I think we see things, because when you're connected to your higher self, you are not in your ego at all, are you? And I think that's where we can come from, a place where we can look at all these different parts of spirituality, different religions, and we'd have no judgment on any of them. Believe what you want to believe. Tell me about it. I want to hear about it. I don't have to, agree with it, but I love hearing what other people think. And we just have no judgment. And I think actually that's another part of actually embodying spirituality, is not being in your ego and being, like you said, in your higher self and just loving everyone no matter what they believe. And I think that's sometimes what religion can get wrong,
Yeah.
is that, they only within their, their certain beliefs. But I think ultimately we love everyone no matter what they believe. So I think that's another kind of bit of it to me as well.
Do you know what's really cool? So I'm going to say it's cool. Some people might think it's batshit crazy. But like I was brought up, Italian Christian, right? I went to a Catholic school, had to go to church at Christmas Day or whatever. And I always was like, God, this is so fucked up. Like this is so hypocritical and cult like. And I don't want anyone to tell me I have to, like abide by somebody's rules. And I guess that's the inner rebellion of me. But there was a side of me that just thought this is so controlling and coercive that it doesn't align. Only when I started listening to the vortex and understanding, the law of attraction, the universal laws, and hearing from Abraham Hicks. And for anyone that doesn't know, Esther Hicks there's a couple in America and she has been channeling this body, right? This entity called Abraham Hicks. And it's probably just her higher self. I don't know if it's an external being. God knows what it is, but she speaks so amazingly about the way humans are doing life, right? And essentially, like it's kind of observing how humanity have got it wrong. And I just find it deeply fascinating because so much of what Abraham says, I'm like, yes, that's absolutely what I think too. I really resonate. And the bit about Christianity and religion is so interesting to me because essentially we all come from one source, and that one source is about love and light and positivity and support, right? And being one for the collective and serving each other and coming together. And then all of a sudden, probably, middle-aged white men decided to start creating cults and groups and, oh no, I'm the leader, you do as I say. And then, no, I'm the leader, you do as I say. No, I'm the leader, you're wrong, I'm right. And then all of a sudden there's these groups of someone saying, no, we're right, you're wrong. And all of a sudden humanity started to get it wrong. And essentially they all believe in the same thing, but they've tried to separate it and they've tried to control it. And then all of a sudden they're judging anyone who isn't in their little camp. But essentially it's the same thing. They've just kind of watered it down and created all these rules, and then their own personal kind of views on things has then shaped another rule book. And now, we're in a modern age where there's technology and there's, diversity and fluidity and all sorts of things. And actually, if you go by this book that was written thousands of years ago, we're all living life wrong. But then it's like, think about it. If there was one source and one God and one universal creator who just wanted to love all their children, yes, we were given free will. And that is the outcome of free will, because we have to navigate life. We have to do life. We have to be shaped by trauma, and we have to live our lessons, and we have to, fuck each other over and then fix it and just navigate life like the human way, which is messy. But essentially, it was never to control any of us. Like, we cannot control what anyone thinks, behaves, believes, or does, right? We're not here to do that. And I think that's where it's gone wrong because there's too many people in power trying to fuel their own ego or their own greed by trying to control the masses. And I'm just like, this is messed up. Like, I don't want to be
Mm.
controlled by anyone, but I don't want to control anyone either. I want everyone to be seen and felt as equal. And that's where the true beauty of religion and beliefs and faith and all that stuff, that's when it can really rise because it's supposed to benefit. It's not supposed to hinder or control or judge.
Yeah, and ultimately, humans just wanna belong, don't they? They wanna be part of a community and they wanna
We're so
feel.
sad. We just want to be friends and
Yeah.
belong.
Yeah, and I think that's sometimes I think why I feel a bit icky about, like, religion because I feel that it kind of takes advantage of people's
Yeah.
just natural
Ability
kind
to
of
be in a group.
wanna be in a group, which actually leads me on to what we were chatting about last night is and back to soul purposes because we were looking at soul purpose and how you're kind of there's 2 positions in the cosmos, and they're, like, to do with the moon, and it's long to get into. I won't bore you with that, but basically, your south node is kind of your stuff that you brought from a past life, and your north node is kind of your soul's lessons where you're heading in this lifetime, and your kind of your past life bit, your self node is in that house of belonging and community, and it's Virgo in there. So Virgo just wants to kind of do everything perfectly all the time, you know. And actually, when you think back to kind of, let's think maybe 5, 10 years ago, how you wanted to keep everyone in every community happy and you wanted to do everything perfectly all the time. And yeah, so Virgo wanted to do everything perfectly all the time and then moving towards Pisces, which is like the most spiritual sign, and how your soul is here to kind of ditch that perfectionism and that need to keep everyone else happy and then move towards Pisces, that really spiritual sign, but also in the house of creativity, joy, all of those really lovely things. And it's basically your soul here to say, chill the fuck out a little bit and live. So they're always opposite each other. And I just think that's such a beautiful axis, really.
Thanks,
But I
babe.
don't know if that resonates with you. I know you don't resonate with the Virgo bit.
So last night, so just to give everyone the story, I was so tired last night. I got in, it was really late. I had a banging headache. I'd just done Pilates and Soph sent to me this like 12-page document. And I hate reading stuff. Like I just cannot read stuff. And it looked beautiful because it had all the branding on it. I was like, Soph, I'm trying to read it. I'm trying to read it. And some bits were like really like clear. I was like, oh my God, that's bang on me. And other bits I was like, nah, don't resonate. But I hadn't heard Sophie talk it out yet. So what Soph's just said is the first time I've heard her explain it. And that makes way more sense. Yeah, I was and have always been torn between being a perfectionist and wanting to control everything, and the other rebellion side of me just wants to fuck it all and just do nothing and just enjoy the moment. And I've always been like in the middle of that, like battle between perfection and giving myself shit because I'm not making the most of every second. And then the other side of me that just wants to be happy and help everyone find their joy and just chill out. And like, I don't care about the rules and the structure, and I don't care what I'm supposed to do, and no one can tell me what to do. And there is that rebellion. But it's really interesting to see how I've navigated the last year because where I have had my spiritual awakening, which essentially means I've realized the parts of my soul and I have now become consciously aware of my soul's purpose. And I think that's a massive part of the power of it, right? Once you're aware of it, you can then start embodying it. And I think I have organically, I guess intuitively followed my soul's path. And I'm really blessed because a lot of people don't have that connection with their intuition as strongly yet until you're awake and then you tap in. But I think I've intuitively been following a path that has navigated it according to my soul's purpose. But now I can consciously be aware of it. And it just makes so much sense. And it gives me that permission to give myself a pass and be like, you're not getting it wrong. This is exactly how it's supposed to be because you're supposed to be constantly learning this lesson and choosing whether to be that affected control freak or to go down this spiritual path. And obviously this year, not only have I tried to support women in business with their marketing so that they don't feel that pressure to be perfect all the time, but just to get on with it and be seen and heard and have that security to feel safe because I love that community aspect. I'm now weaving in my spiritual awakening because I feel a true responsibility to support women on their spiritual path because I know it's not easy or organic most people, right? It came easy to me because I was already intuitively on that path.
And I don't think you need to ditch that with the South Node bit, like the past life stuff. We can keep some of those bits. So, like with the perfectionism stuff and the community part, actually keeping a little bit of that for the branding work and the social media and building that communities is really beneficial. So, I guess it's about taking the gifts from it, as with everything.
Take what you want, leave the rest, right?
Yeah. And I think we were talking yesterday as well about the thing that I sent through and uh, the Saturn return. When we're kind of like 28 to 30, Saturn will return to where it was when we were born. And if we aren't on the right path and we aren't, working towards our North Node, Saturn will give us a huge kick up the arse. And we found it really interesting with because I don't know if you want to talk about what happened during that time. Yeah, Dani had, life really did give Dani a huge lesson during that time, and actually it kind of taught her that you can't always control everything, and actually it will be okay.
Mm.
So it really Saturn is like the strict teacher, you have that one teacher that's a bit of a twat, but they ultimately just want the best for you. It's because they want the best for you. That is Saturn.
Yeah, it's really, really interesting the way you worded it in that report as well, because the biggest lesson for me was to realize that a lot of the kind of thoughts, I guess, on the importance of family and everything being perfect and being able to help everyone and control everyone, not even control it in a narcissistic way, but control people's happiness. And I was always
Yeah,
a fixer. And I
yeah.
remember if my mum was having a bad day or if my sister was moaning, I'd want to fix it. And I used to piss them all off because I was glass half full all the time. And sometimes they just wanted someone to cry with, and they just wanted to have a rant and a moan. And I was like, no, let's fix this. Let's find a better way. And then obviously we lost Ollie. So we lost, my brother essentially from the age of 14, who was my sister's husband. And that just ripped the family apart. And it made us have to rebuild ourselves. But it also, and I don't think I've been aware of this until we're having this conversation now, but I have consciously said that over my awakening of the last few years, I've realized that I have learned to hold space in conversations better. And I've learned not to fix things. And I've been so much more supportive of my sister, especially going through losing her husband. I couldn't fix it. I physically could not take her pain away. So that lesson taught me to hold space. And now it just sounds crazy because I would not be how I am now in people's pain and trauma if that didn't happen, because that essentially did teach me that, because I couldn't tell her to get over it. I couldn't say, let's find something positive today. I had to just call her and let her rant and cry and be angry and shout. And I had to feel it with her. And then essentially I had to support, my husband who lost his best friend and my mum and dad who lost their son. And I couldn't fix any of it for any of them. And that was a massive wake up call, because it's okay not to be able to fix. And actually, your healing can come from a place of compassion and support and love. And I could be that beacon of joy and hope by just being around them. Do you know what I mean? And only now that we're having this conversation has it just dawned on me that I had to realize that my skill wasn't to be the fixer. My skill was to be that positive, joyful little bunny, right? But I don't have to be positive and joyful all the time.
You don't, and I think actually to look at it from the point of that time where you had 4 little people in the family at that time that needed that.
I always say, like, my son saved me because he was 1, right? So Rafi was 1, and that was the hardest part for me. Like, only in the last 6 months have I been able to talk about it without crying or breaking down, because the biggest trauma in losing Ol was the fact that my son wouldn't have a relationship with his uncle. Like, that was the bit. And honestly, I'm getting choked now because it's fucking sad. Like, it just is. It's sad. And as humans, we're supposed to feel the feels. We're supposed to feel the pain and the trauma and the loss. And we're supposed to navigate life losing people we love. Like, it's just one of those divine but horrendous things to go through because of how you then respond and grow and learn. And essentially, when you can turn that pain into purpose, which has been my recent fascination, when I meet people and realize that we've been able to turn pain and trauma and suffering into living a life in alignment and living a life of abundance by being able to support other people And that is when I say our true purpose as humans is to serve. We're here to use our sole purpose. We're here to use our lessons and our trauma and our past lives and our present gifts to help people. Like, that's the point. So if I had to go through something fucking horrendous to be able to hold space for someone and say, life's fucking shit, but do you know what? We go back to source and we start again. And Ollie's on his next life, you know, wherever he is, and his energy's still here. And yeah, it's sad, and I don't wanna fucking cry on.
And I think I just wanted to say, like, for anyone that's dealing with stuff at the moment, it takes a long time to be able to see it from that point of view.
5 years, do you know what I mean? And that is how long it's taken me.
Yeah. And it's not, and we do understand that there's a lot of anger there when those things happen. We don't expect people to kind of just, have these losses or these traumatic events and go, what's the life lesson that I meant to learn? And, skip down the path. I think it sounds like we might be sugarcoating that part of it a little bit. But what I think the ultimate message that we're trying to get across is that there is hope, right? Yeah.
I think that is the thing, isn't it? It's just to support people to realize that everyone has their own stories and their own battlegrounds, and we all have our own paths to go down. And, somebody on the exterior might look like they've got their shit together and they're amazing. They're so happy and positive all the fucking time. And actually, they've been through shit. And it's just how you respond and react and learn from life. But you can't choose that. I don't think you can actively say, right, I'm going to learn from it today. And I just think it is your organic soul's path. And only now,
Yeah.
5 years later, have me and you reconnected in this space where you can read me my birth chart and you can tell me these things, because otherwise I wouldn't piece it together. Like, yeah, on one level, because I've always been a logical thinker and I've always liked to believe in everything happens for a reason. On some level, I would have said, that me and my sister wouldn't have got as close. Me and my family, or she wouldn't have moved to the seaside, and all these things that wouldn't have happened, because that's the beauty of life, essentially. And I know that sometimes sounds like really harsh to say, but I do personally believe that the beauty of life is what happens after these horrendous things, because nothing happens if something else didn't happen. It's like sliding doors. And when you can live life, eventually, once you've processed it, and this is the thing about humanity and why I adore people and psychology, right? You have to like get so heartbroken, right? You have to crack open. And my sister talks about it so beautifully. We'll have her on one day, because she is way more grounded in this stuff than me. I'm a little bit more Blair, but she is just so succinct with her words. And she, has always said to me that there's something really beautiful about people when you connect over having your hearts broken open, and like when you are rock bottom and your whole kind of being is like burst open because your heart, and like that's why the symbolism around the heartbreak, right? You have to be broken to rebuild, and that's
Yeah.
when your pure essence can come out of you. You have to break it. And so like when you go through loss and heartbreak, like it does shape your path from that point onwards. And I think as humans, you have the heartbreak, you have that raw emotional trauma, you're in the thick of it, you can't see a way out, you're in the eye of the storm, you cry every day, and you're in pain, right? Physical pain. And you can't talk about it without crying. And that is what's supposed to happen. Then you get angry, right? And everyone, I don't know who has never been angry when someone's died. You're either angry at life, you're angry at God, you're angry at that person, you're angry at whoever's fault it was, because we have to blame people, or you blame yourself. There's always that anger and that guilt. And then there's like acceptance, right? And then there's the magic that comes afterwards. And I think you have to ride that roller coaster. And I guess it could take years. It could take like, everyone's different. But for me, I guess it's taken 5 years for me to go through all of that, to now be able to talk about it, nearly not crying. Because let's face it, no tears fell, ladies. I was fine. I held it together. I was wobbling. But yeah, it's taken 5 years to be able to talk about it in a way that is now, hopefully helpful to people, because grief is massive. And, I lost a really good friend of mine in January. And I know that because of my own personal way of handling grief and trauma and heartbreak was a massive support to my friends. and to be able to talk to my children. And like essentially we're all here to raise humans, right? And we want to do a better job than we were. And I had an amazing upbringing, right? I'm never here to say I didn't. I'm very privileged. My parents are amazing, but we all want to do a better job, right? And I just want to, and I think we're blessed in this generation that we're so much more aware of child psychology and mental health in the first 7 years and yada yada yada, that we are just different. And I never wanted to lie to my kids, and I never wanted to hide things from them. So if mummy's crying, I'll tell them why. You know, like the night we were told that Caroline was in hospital, we were in the middle of reading a book. It was story time, and me and my husband and 2 kids were there, and I had to leave the room, and I sat on the floor and I cried. And the kids walked in and they were like, "Mummy, what's wrong?" And I was like, I looked at Leo, like, and the words couldn't come out, but he said, "You know, Mummy's really good friend Caroline." Like, honestly, I don't want to cry about it. Why is this such an emotional episode today? Ah. Anyway, basically, I just think it's really important to feel the heartbreak and the pain and to talk to your kids about it, because we're all human and we want our kids to know that it's okay to cry. That means that you loved them, right? And to be sad and to grieve someone, it just means that there's love with nowhere to go. But essentially, like, that love will still continue, and you can still send people love and feel that love and hold those memories. God, this is such a messed up episode. Whoever's listening to this, we hope we've not made you all cry today. What the fuck have I just listened to? Oh, gosh. I bet you tonight Soph's going to look at what the planets were doing today, and it was all about processing grief or trauma or being emotional.
Probably. And this is just this conversation here, this 27 minutes is just a perfect example of mine and Daniela's daily conversations, how we cover about 37 different topics. We cry, we laugh.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah. And do you know what? And this is the power of this podcast, because we're just trying to show the world how beautiful soul-bound friendships are. And when you've got somebody that you can laugh and cry with in the same 5 seconds, like, that's pretty special. And when you can relate and discuss things, and essentially we all need to share, and that's the power of community, and that's the power of friendship, and, you know, women coming together and holding space for each other. And, you know, that's why I'm so blessed and excited that Sophie's doing this whole awakening program with me, because we want to share this. We want to give this. It's like a gift, you know, we want to give this crazy friendship to other women so that you can feel seen and heard and feel safe and share all this stuff, because I truly believe that that's where the healing is. You know, that's why therapy exists and counseling exists, right? And you don't need to go to someone. You can have therapy with your friends, like, and that's what, you know, all those memes are about. I don't need a therapist, it's my friends and a bottle of wine, because essentially it's just conversation. And if you've got somebody that can hold space for you to talk these things out so you can process it and your logical mind can make sense of it, like, that is healing. And there's something really special in that.
It's just being heard, isn't it? I think a lot of people that come to therapy, they've never been truly heard,
Mm.
sometimes in their life. And when someone actually sits down and actually hears what they've got to say and validates their feelings,
It's the
that
validation.
and it's just and that's it.
It's interesting that you said about the validation and stuff, because that's the thing that I learned, right? I thought I was a great listener and I was great at giving advice, but I think I had to learn that it's just holding space. And now I can genuinely say I'm an amazing listener and I give great advice when I'm invited, but now I know to wait for that invitation. And I think that's the gift, isn't it? When you've got friends that, what is going on in Southampton today? My goodness, someone's having a bad day. Look, this is it. Something's happening in the planets. Everyone's lost their mind.
Right, I'm off to check the cosmos. I will see you.
Gosh, update me. We'll let everyone know next time why we cried so much on the last episode and what was going on.
Yeah, we will. Right. Love you. Bye. You've been listening to Shouty Mums and Spirituality. We'd love to hear from you, and you can find us on Insta at Shouty Mums and Spirituality Pod. And remember, keep your crystals charged, your chakras open, and your voices loud. See you next time.